Meet a real Time Team fan. This is Francis Davis, who lives up here at Skipsie in blowy East Yorkshire. And to put it mildly, you're fairly interested in what was going on in this field, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Why? It looks like all your other fields.
Except they ploughed deeper one year and we turned up all these finds.
Which are really fantastic. We've got everything from this prehistoric arrowhead right through to medieval. In fact, Frances was so excited that she paid at her own expense for our Geophys team, if this doesn't blow away, to have a survey. And as you can see, there's a heck of a lot of activity. So clearly something was going on here. But what exactly? We don't know. This place is an archaeological blank sheet. So Frances has invited us here. And how long have we got to find out?
3 days.
Just 3 days. If we don't get blown away. It is a bit windy, isn't it?
Just slightly.
Look at that, Francis. Don't see that very often, do you? 8:45 in the morning, and we're already putting in our first trench. It's because you shelled out for the Geophys. Mick, we might as well send Geophys home then.
Well, I don't think we can because we've only got this one strip across the side of the field and we need to extend it into the rest of the field, see if these features carry on there. What we've actually done is started the two trenches. One, look where the ends of what look like a couple of terminals are. Can you see those, Francis?
Yes.
So there might be an enclosure or something there. And the other one is across that big linear feature down the middle, which might be some sort of ditch boundary or something like that.
I know him, though. He's getting really excited. But look at that Geophys. It could just be field boundaries or medieval drains, couldn't it? How would you feel if that's what we got?
Fine, but at least we'd know what it was. But of all the pottery that we found 2.5, 3 years ago, I'm hoping it's a little bit more than that.
That's what we're here to find out. That's why we're putting the trenches in. It looks as if there's a lot happening. This palimpsest of sites, one on top of another one.
A palimpsest?
Yeah. I mean,
I don't think we've dug one of those before. It's like a prehistoric elephant, isn't it?
No. It's where a site's been reused time and time again. And so you get this build-up of activity.
Well, it's going to be a battle against the wind today because Francis's field here at Skipsie is on the east coast, just above Hull. This is our first visit to this bit of East Yorkshire, and I think I'm reassured to hear that this field isn't as windy all the time. Geophys are working as quickly as possible to extend their survey on this ridge of higher ground, while these two trenches give us our first look at what they're detecting. Already just digging through the topsoil is turning up more finds.
Bit of slag, and I reckon that's medieval, the one bit of pottery so far.
I think so as well.
The luckier members of the team are starting work in the incident room.
Francis, what we're going to try and do for you to help you understand what's going on in the field is get all the finds you've had into a timeline so we can see exactly when there's lots of activity going on and when it dies away. But I think, Phil, you've just about got on top of the prehistoric.
Yeah, I mean, this is lovely little collection of flint. This all came out of the same field.
Within sort of 50 metres either way.
It is
Straight away, Phil can tell Francis that all her flint finds date to the early Neolithic period, around 4000 BC.
What you've actually got is evidence of the first farmers that were actually living in Britain.
But you need an expert eye to appreciate some of them.
It's just been flaked very, very finely at that end. What you've actually got is a little end scraper. It's an actual scraping tool.
For dealing with hides and skins and things like that.
That's right. The other thing that is immediately nice is this lovely little leaf arrowhead.
Phil's able to date this to the Neolithic because the shape of flint arrows changed over time. Earlier, in the Mesolithic, they were smaller and looked like this, while later in the Bronze Age, they developed a barb and tang. But Phil saved the best till last.
Oh, this is a real classic. What we've got is this lovely polished axe, but you see it's actually snapped across there. And what this tells me is that it was actually in the haft like that. When the blow, probably a very unfortunate blow, hit the tree, there is so much flexion in the handle and the axe that it just literally snapped the axe right off. And in so doing, it took this whacking great chunk out of the side of the axe. And I'll tell you what, if you can put as many hours into making one of those as I have, if you do that, the air turns blue.
This Neolithic axe, ground smooth to give it a superior cutting edge, was as good as the technology got in the Stone Age. But Phil thinks Francis would have found a lot more flint in this field if people were actually living here 4,000 years ago. He reckons her flint finds could have been left by a hunting party just passing through. So nice to find, but nothing to do with what's showing in the geophysics.
Did you hear that wind?
I reckon this must be one of the windiest days we've ever encountered. But it doesn't seem to be putting anyone off. In fact, all our experts seem really fired up and excited by the potential of this site.
Really, they're just a bunch of big kids. There's this rivalry developing between them about who's going to be able to tell Francis the most information at the end. It's like a little competition going on. Stuart's got this massive advantage because he's already done quite a lot of work in Skipsie. Stuart, unfair, you're ahead of the game.
Yeah, I've done a bit of work here in the past, Tony.
What have you got?
Well, just to orient you, here's Skipsie. There's Flamborough Head up here. This is the North Sea. This is coming round to the Humber Estuary. Hull's down here. Now, this whole strip of land is known as Holderness. Now, it's very different in the past to what it is now. It was marshy and boggy. There are a whole series of meres, which are inland lakes, islands of sands and gravel sticking out above them. And the field that we're digging here is on top of one of those gravel ridges.
I tell you what, he's far more coherent here than it's possible to be outside the car. Go on, tea break over.
Oh, I didn't get any tea.
It's still over.
Stuart's going to be looking for clues as to what's been going on in the area around Francis's field. But he'll have to get moving if he's going to compete with Geophys, who've already extended their survey.
This is where we've put in the trenches to start with, and it appears that there's medieval features there, but it's still early days. The thing that intrigues me, though, in the extension is this clear, well, I think it's a boundary.
Yeah.
And there's lots of noise activity to that side, and it seems very quiet as we go down the slope. So I'm keen to investigate that boundary.
Yeah, I think we need to put a trench across that, because that looks as if it's a boundary of something now. It'd be nice to know the date of it.
Given we won't have time to dig everything, it's crucial we make the right decisions. This trench, Trench 3, is going in here across what could be a ditch marking the edge of a settlement. But to me, this huge circular blob looks more intriguing. Why aren't we digging that? Stuart, as ever, is quick to reassure me that they know what they're doing.
That shape there's been a lot of sand quarrying. The maps actually show that there were sand quarries here. And on the air photography on this particular one and another one, you can see big areas which are dug out. Now they look like sand quarries, and that suggests that's what that possibly is.
Basically, the game is working out what all these squiggles mean. And in addition to digging, we're hoping that an analysis of Francis's finds will give us some clues as to when the site was occupied. The story seems to be that there was virtually no activity on this site until around the time of the Norman Conquest, 1066. And then we have pottery going through into the Tudor period, 16th century and later. But it's the rarely found Norman period pottery that's got our pot expert interested.
So what do you think it's telling us about what was going on in that field just after the Norman Conquest?
It looks like the kind of assemblage that comes from people actually living here and using these pots. It's not the kind of thing that gets spread on the field in the manure heap. The pieces are too large and too crisp.
Francis, I'm told the favourite piece of yours actually is this bit.
Yes, mainly because we couldn't figure out how it went together, but also the thumbprint. Because to me, that was left by somebody real.
According to Potter John Hudson, this was part of a skillet, a kind of frying pan, but he's a bit puzzled by it.
Yeah, normally when you put handles on like this, you hold the pot by the base and you pull the pot out. Now, when they brought this to show me, I sat playing with it for a long time thinking there's something wrong with this, and it's on upside down, because that should be there, and this rounded side should fit in the palm of your hand there, nice and easily, and your thumb go in there. So why they've put it on upside down, I don't know. You could only ask the person who did it, and he's long dead.
As Frances is so intrigued by this bit of pot, John is here to try and make a replica for her.
This is the sort of potter's wheel that the medieval potters of this area would have used. It's called a momentum kick wheel. It's just simply a piece of tree trunk mounted in a frame which spins quite freely. They didn't know it as mass production, but they were produced by the mass.
Yeah.
You know, people would break these very easily and just discard them. They were only, let's say, 20 for a penny.
20 for a penny, that's the price in the Middle Ages.
Yeah, something like that. They would be very cheap. I mean, pottery's it's not a millionaire's job, as you can see from my attire.
This is the easy bit. Tomorrow, John plans to fire it in a kiln so that Frances can have a completely finished pot.
There's the thumbprint. I'll just nip that off there. Is that all right?
Yes, that's fine.
No, I want you to be satisfied. Are you?
No. I am quite happy now because it has intrigued us for ages what it could actually be.
Meanwhile, up on our windswept hill, we're slowly starting to make sense of our puzzle of squiggly lines. So why did we put this trench in?
You know, we've got this network of ditches.
Yeah.
We really wanted to get some dating evidence and see what's happening to them. I thought there might be an actual break at this point as well, so that was a good point. It turns out that the strong anomaly is actually an iron spike in the trench there.
This looks modern, but over in the corner of the trench, Bridge has uncovered some burnt stones that obviously need more investigation.
You can see on top of this really big one, it's got lots of heat-affected material, and it's as if hot air's been running across it.
What, through there like that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
In terms of dating evidence, the only clue we've found so far is one bit of pottery.
Prehistoric?
Yes, that could be Iron Age. In this area, the Iron Age pottery is usually quite coarse, undecorated.
But we've also got things turning up that surely can't be Iron Age.
Come and have a look at this. Look at it.
What, this thing here?
Well, yeah.
It looks like a piece of old junk, doesn't it?
No, but it's look, listen to that. That's lead, and it's got this big. Well, we obviously got this big bit of iron here.
What, we got a piece of aeroplane?
No, it is not. It's lead.
Really?
I don't understand why you're getting a bit excited about it. I mean, it's with some debris that looks pretty late.
Well, I know it does, but at the same time, it's inescapable that there is a ditch running along here, and there's no immediate sign of anything that has been actually cut through to allow this to be put in.
What is the lead thing there, Phil? Is it some sort of vessel or tank or something?
Yeah, it's like a big sort of, well, like a shallow bucket. There's the bottom of it,
yeah,
and there's the rim of it, and both sides have been like squeezed together.
Right.
We're going to have to dig a bit deeper to find out more. But hopefully not as deep as these two are going in search of the environmental story.
Henry, you're down at the bottom of the hill. The archaeology is right at the top of the hill. Is this kind of environmental stuff really going to do anything for us?
Yeah, I don't think you can understand a site like that. It's right on the edge of this old wetland. Unless you understand what the wetland is and how the environment's changed, you just don't understand how the archaeology could work.
But surely this is a modern pond in here that's just been built.
Well, that is, but oddly enough, it's actually built right over the top of an ancient pond.
Oh, right.
How do you know that?
Well, we've been coring, really.
Well, if you look here, you can see these sediments that we're pulling out in the corer. If you want to have a feel of that, if you want to get your hands dirty, that's basically a silt, and that's been laid down by water, either by flowing water or maybe still water. So you're basically stood here on an infilled lake.
Hornsea Mere is the only one still to survive and gives a good idea of how big these ancient lakes could be. But understandably, our team are chuffed because they've discovered new evidence of another one here.
We'll take some sediments away, and what we'll do is we'll take it back to the laboratory and I'll analyse it for pollen, and that pollen will tell us about the ancient environment. It'll hopefully give us some clues what the environment was like when there's activity happening on the slope up there.
That's if we can work out what's going on up there. We've got a confusion of ditches. Thanks to Trench 3, we now know this squiggly line is a boundary ditch. But the only dating material so far is the bit of Iron Age pottery found in one of the ditches in Phil's trench.
We've got one ditch in there.
Yeah.
We've got another one in here,
Yeah.
which has got our tripod and our picture in.
So you're calling this a tripod now?
Yeah, well, it's got 3 legs. Look, it's got one there, and one underneath. And this is the picture that would have sat on the top of it. What we don't know is whether it's actually sitting in the ditch or whether it's in a much later feature.
And then is there another ditch here?
Well, I'm standing on the natural. Here's another spine, this yellowy stuff. But here, this dark stuff is another ditch running parallel with the others. And they're all heading towards this pile of stones. Now, we've opened this up, and look, we've got an area of clay coming round there.
Phil's also found bits of a crucible, making him think that this could be a furnace for ironworking. The ditch runs under the furnace, so there are at least 2 periods of activity here. Complicated site, isn't it?
It's great.
Just as Mick predicted, this is looking like a site that's got traces of people living here over thousands of years.
Yeah, we need to be able to...
According to Stuart, it's easy to see why. He's been working on a graphic that shows how this landscape looked before it was drained. It shows that Francis's field, on this ridge of higher ground, would have been one of the few dry places to live in this area. Not only that, but Stuart's keen to point out to me that this hill next door was once a very important site. This, apparently, was the site of Skipsie Castle, the centre of the whole of Holderness in medieval times.
But it's actually much more than that. These earthworks here are actually spectacular. I think that actually starts in the early prehistoric period. It's even Neolithic. A huge great mound situated in the bottom of this bog out here. This was one of those meres, one of those lakes, and this would have been a spectacular monument there. Then this big ridge round here is probably an Iron Age enclosure, very close to that earlier monument. And then finally, when the Normans come along, they put their castle on top of that mound and reuse all this as part of their Motte and Bailey Castle.
So this was an important strategic site in both prehistoric and medieval times, and it's right next door to us. Suddenly, I'm starting to get excited about the possibilities of what we might find tomorrow. Tony to Mick, can you hear me?
Yeah, is that you, Tony?
Yeah, we're right on the top of Skipsie Castle. We're about a kilometre away from you, and even from where we are, we can see the glint of the digger.
Oh, crikey!
So you would have been able to see this site in earlier times?
And presumably with the great mere between us.
Absolutely right. How have you been getting on?
Oh, we've just got some really cracking geophys results John just brought over. It shows the site going on into the field next door. A huge density of features. Looks really exciting. So we're going to have to put a trench in that tomorrow.
Is Frances happy?
Very.
Tell her if she's having a good time now. I think tomorrow's going to be something really special. Listen to this. This is from the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer, written in the 14th century. Lords, there is in Yorkshire, as I guess, a marshy country called Holderness. And this is it. It's all been drained now, but in ancient times, all this would have been bog and marshland, except up here on this hill there would have been people living, and we know that because the owner of the field, Frances, has had loads of finds from the prehistoric right through to the Tudor period, and she's invited us here to help us sort the story out. Yesterday the archaeology was really confusing, but apparently there's some new geophys which could hold the key to the whole site.
Look at it. There's a massive responses.
got very
Total
noisy, isn't it?
contrast.
Geophys are excited about their latest results. Yesterday we started with just this small area to go on, then they added this, and now they've extended into this field and discovered the signals are getting busier and stronger. But is their plot showing human activity or just geology?
I think it's mainly human activity. There's a lot of ridge and furrow ploughing coming through on this line.
Have you got that on the air pictures?
Yeah, that's one thing you can confirm from the aerial photograph. There's a whole block of fields with ridges going that way, all over that area, so it suggests any of that that's visible there is going to be underneath that ridge and furrow.
Mick, we've got to have a look at some of that stuff.
Oh, I think so, yeah. But I think because we've got ridge and furrow cutting through it, we've got to be careful that we don't pick something that's going to have been wrecked by the ridge and furrow, haven't we?
Well, if you look at the detail, this boundary we talked about yesterday, I think it may well curve round there. Can you see sort of ditches curving through at that point?
Why can't it come on to there and back down there?
Well, it could do, but the picture's so complex.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think if we had a look at least one of these ditches,
Yeah.
but clearly we've got things beyond as well. We're magnetic.
Phil's intrigued by this big blob.
It's not another big bucket again, is it?
This looks This looks so intriguing. Would you be prepared to go away from your fascinating bucket?
Well, I'll find another one. Yeah, it's all right, I'll do that.
So we've yet more squiggles to investigate. We're going to open a trench here and over this big blob. And Geophys don't want to waste any time doing it.
You haven't got time for coffee.
I do. It's so cold here, I want a cup of coffee.
Of course, they don't have to do the digging.
This is the blob, Phil. Good.
Who'd be an archaeologist on a cold day in Yorkshire?
We've had wind, we've got rain. What's next?
I don't think snow's predicted, but anything's possible.
It's easy to forget that when we started here, virtually nothing was known about this hill. This area was an archaeological blank. But even so, I don't think any of us expected to find so much surviving and stretching all the way across here. There's a kind of competition going on amongst the team to see who can impress Francis the most. And now that Phil's moved on from Trench 1, we've got two would-be detectives trying to make sense of the lead bucket we discovered yesterday.
There's burning on the base.
There is burning,
there's
is there?
carbonisation there, yeah.
Right, if we look on both sides. Oh, it's heavy.
It is heavy, isn't it?
It's completely solid down, so we're quite safe.
Absolutely nothing on it to give its age away, but someone...
No, it's not. There's a nice little...
Someone will know. Someone will...
Should we just tip it up and have a better look?
No obvious reason why it was chucked away. It's not got a hole in it, has
No,
it?
there's nothing.
Why not reuse it? It's one of the easiest metals to recycle, isn't it? You know?
Well...
Valuable piece of kit, really.
We're also attempting to show Francis what some of her pottery finds look like by making replicas of them. To get the job done in time, John's had to make his kiln out of modern materials. But Victor's planning to show Francis the kind of kiln the original pots were made in.
It's rather larger than that.
Huge things.
Yeah, quite big kilns, yeah. Yeah, and your fire melts could move out accordingly, but it seems such a shame to spoil such a good drawing.
All of Francis's finds were discovered during field walking in this field. And Stuart's been wondering why we've had to dig so deep to reach the archaeology here.
You've farmed these fields for a long time.
He's got a theory that might explain it. But first, he wants to talk to the farmer who used to plough Francis's field.
How deep did you plough it?
Approximately 9 inches deep all over, but it was different over there.
The soil?
The soil was definitely different.
Stuart believes that a lot of soil was dumped here to fill in some sand quarries in this field.
There are sand pits marked on the map in this area here in the 19th century. They're either digging sand out or possibly clay, something of that sort of order.
Yeah.
What this means is that we can't be sure Francis's finds belong in this field. They could have been mixed up with the soil brought in from somewhere else.
I think this has been in fill.
More than ever, what we really need now is some secure dating evidence. And here in Trench 2, it looks like Matt has come up with the goods. Not only can he confirm this Geophys black line is a large ditch, but he's also discovered the base of what looks like an oven built in the ditch after it had silted up. Most important, though, he's got some dating evidence for us in the shape of lovely large bits of pot.
Francis, I wanted you to see this pottery that Peter's got because you're getting very excited about it, look.
I have it here, Francis. You can see that it's a jar or cooking pot. It's got a nice groove around the inside of the rim for putting a lid in, and even on the outside the actual soot from the last time it was used to make a meal spilt over the edge and got burnt on. And it's 11th century basically.
Oh wow.
Either side of the Norman Conquest.
So round about the time of the Norman Conquest.
You don't see it every day of the week, so...
Well, they may not look like it, but they are excited about this bit of pot, which would have looked something like this. And I have to admit that I'm beginning to get excited too, because it means that we're digging up a site that was probably occupied at the time of the Norman Conquest. It could even have some connection with Skipsie Castle, which is literally just on the next hill along.
Do we know when the Motte and Bailey was built?
It must have been built between 1071 and 1086.
Because?
Which is fairly precise. because 1071, where the man Drogo was given Holderness, and 1086 he went, and it was given to somebody else.
Drogo, who was he?
Well, he was a Fleming. We know almost nothing about him, except that he came from Flanders with William the Conqueror. He was married to one of the Conqueror's relations, and the Conqueror gave him not only Skipsie, but the whole of this district known as Holderness, all the way down to the Humber.
So he was a big, powerful man?
He was indeed, yes.
The Norman Motte and Bailey Castle must have looked something like this, and was positioned here not only to control access along these sand islands, but to provide a lookout against invasion from the sea. It's hard to imagine now, but our site just across the mere was next door to the centre of power in Holderness in the 11th century. Now more than ever, I'm really curious to know what was going on here in Francis's Field. The question is, can we work it out? Since the very first time team that we ever did about 12 years ago, every time there's been a problem to do with something metal coming up, we've called for Jerry over there from Bradford University to sort it out for us. And our problem this time is that we've got this metal tripod and we've got this lead bucket, but we don't know what they are or what the date of them is. Jerry, can you give us a hand?
Well, they're difficult to relate together. It's possible that the tripod was there and, for example, that the lead bucket was sitting on the tripod with, say, heat underneath, and you're just gently heating something. Now, one of the things that would immediately come to my mind, it's not metallurgy, but it'd be something like salt making, where it was common to use lead dishes to basically boil the brine and let salt form. So that's possibly one thing, i.e. a sort of an organic process, nothing to do with metallurgy.
Date?
Looking at the state of the preservation of the iron, because it's in very good condition, I suspect that it's at the earliest, early medieval, probably later.
Good. At last we're starting to get somewhere. But what about the possible iron-working furnace in this trench? There are two basic questions to ask.
What is it and how old is it? I suppose is
This is the big question.
Right, what is it? The clay is quite pink, but it hasn't really been highly fired. It's not fired hard. So I don't think it's a particularly high temperature process. I don't really think it's to do with metalworking. Also, you've got the ash being scraped out that way, and it doesn't look at the moment as though there aren't lots of little bits of fragments of slag in it, are there?
No, not really, no. It's all around. You can see the bags over here.
Well, I think this is just slag that's kicking around the site, and I think this is probably more an organic process, something maybe even just smoking fish, smoking meat, making brine. It's not industrial activity, but there is industrial activity in the area.
So we now know something about this end of our geophys plot. We know this was a big field boundary ditch that was open in the 11th century, but later had a clay oven built into the bottom of it. We've also got evidence of other low temperature processes going on here, most likely to do with salt making. Apparently there have been 3 other lead buckets found in coastal regions in Yorkshire, and they too date to the 10th and 11th centuries. Ours apparently is far superior because it's been made from just one piece of lead. As a valuable commodity, it's been deliberately folded before being put into the ground, presumably for safekeeping. Only the person who left it never returned to retrieve it. Now, having made some sense of this area, we're going to record what we've found and close these trenches down. At the moment, Phil's working here in the Blob Trench, and we're hoping he might find evidence of the actual settlement where people are living. But Phil's not sure exactly what he's uncovered as yet, and the excitement right now is in the new geophys plot that John's about to reveal to Francis.
This is what you've seen so far, and we've extended the survey towards...
Oh, crikey, it just goes on and on and on, doesn't it?
And look, there's this massive, well, I'm calling it a D-shaped enclosure, which I was getting quite excited about. But then we continued the survey.
Oh, crikey, it's just going on.
It's just unbelievable.
Well, it certainly changes my point of view from out of my kitchen window. Because of thinking what was out here.
I'm just wondering whether it's a
John's never seen anything quite like it. To him, it looks more Iron Age than medieval. So where do we dig to find some answers?
If we're going to get some dating evidence for this sort of enclosure, then I think that would be a good place to go in the first instance.
So trench number 6 gets underway. And it doesn't take long for Rakshar to take off the topsoil and reveal the ditch.
There's this other one at the side.
But can she tell what date it is?
Originally, by the shape of the ditch, we thought that it was Iron Age in shape, but the pottery says otherwise. It's actually medieval.
This is the stuff. Peter, to my untutored eye, that looks a better class of pottery than we've been finding anywhere else.
Yeah, and it's also the largest amount we've had on the site so far. I mean, this is really more from any other trench. Yeah. We've got these late Saxon or early medieval cook pots. Yeah. This one decorated with thumb impressions. And we're seeing stuff we haven't seen before on the site, the appearance of glazed pottery. These are glazed jugs.
So, Mick, what do you think this medieval D-shaped thing might be?
I don't know, we've not seen anything like this, and we've not seen a site with this type of geophysics that produces predominantly this Saxo-Norman material. I mean, it's made us all think this afternoon of quite what we're dealing with.
Best of all the pottery in this trench dates to around the time of the Norman Conquest, and there's loads of it, suggesting we must be close to where people are actually living. But not only that, because we aren't finding any later pottery, Stuart thinks we may be discovering a settlement that was given up for farmland by the early 14th century. Because as this aerial photo shows, Francis's field was covered by medieval ploughing.
The coastline is actually quite a relevant part of our story here.
This is apparently the fastest eroding coastline in Britain, with something like 2 metres falling into the sea each year. In medieval times, the coastline was way out here, and we know that several settlements, such as Clayton, were recorded as falling into the sea.
Did all the people who were living in what's now under the sea tend to move in the direction of Skipsie?
Exactly, that's a critical point, because it's like not only did they have to move and live somewhere else, but they've lost that much agricultural ground. Therefore, on the ground that was left, there's a more intense period of agriculture, and it's that intense period of agriculture we see the physical evidence of in our field. And that's one of the main reasons why Skipsie actually grew up as a settlement. The coastline was retreating.
So almost the end of day 2, and I feel as though we're starting to pull together a great story for Francis. And it looks like she should also have some replica pottery to look at tomorrow, because it's almost ready to come out of the kiln. We'll also be trying to make sense of our geophys map by colouring the ditches in blue to make them stand out from the lines related to ploughing that are confusing the picture. It's going to take some sorting out, especially as geophys have just revealed more of the puzzle.
I think we have to try a different strategy in the remaining time. We've got collections of pottery, this Saxo-Norman stuff, 11th century stuff, and we've got loads of ditches. What we can't define really is where the buildings are. So I think what we do is to dig where we've got a lot of pottery inside one of these enclosures to find the buildings. You know, all our trenches have been across these black lines on here. We need to get inside because that's where the buildings will be of the farmsteads that are defined by the ditches.
Our final day, and with no time to waste, we're opening another trench. Its main goal is to find evidence of one of the buildings that was part of the Norman period settlement we're discovering here. It's the day Francis has been looking forward to, when we start to put together the picture of what we've discovered about life here in medieval times. These animal bones, for instance, include cattle, horse, sheep and goat, all animals that could graze on the marshland. And it's clear every last use was being made of the bones.
We have some evidence of cut marks on the ends of some of the bones. In this case, this is a cattle bone, and there's some cut marks on it that suggest dismembering and skinning. In the case of this bone, which is again also from cattle, a bone that's quite typically broken across the middle to extract the marrow.
Geophys have added even more to their amazing map of human activity in this field. The problem is, we only have today left to try and make sense of it. This morning, they've moved into the field next door to see if they can find out where the settlement actually ends. But it's a great problem to have. We're discovering a settlement connected with big history, the Norman Conquest, an event that had terrible consequences for the people living here who resisted the change.
William the Conqueror came up to the north and brought an army up here, and in the winter he wasted the north. It was called the harrying of the north. He burnt the villages, he burnt their seed corn, which means they're going to starve the next year, and many, many thousands of people died.
And what do we know about the effect all of these changes had on the daily lives of the people who are actually living here?
By the time we come back to Domesday Book in 1086, 20 years after the conquest, the population has fallen to only 7 families, and the value has gone down from £32 to £6. But it was not completely empty, because some places in Domesday Book are just recorded as this is waste, when nothing is happening at all.
So the people using this pottery would have seen a lot of change and a lot of suffering.
Absolutely, yes.
Whether we can fully understand the features we're digging or not, everything has to be recorded so that someone can puzzle over it later.
Oh, haven't got that one.
Here in this trench put in over this geophys blob, the archaeology is very complicated and would require a bigger trench to sort it out. But below these medieval ditches, Phil's found something we haven't seen on this site before.
One thing that we have got in this trench is evidence of the earliest occupation on the hill. And it's a circular thing.
Yes. Phil reckons he's found a curving ditch belonging to an Iron Age roundhouse. A reminder that there's evidence of earlier occupation here, but it's hidden by the later medieval settlement on top. Our environmental team have dug some 6 metres deep into this site, taking soil samples through the different layers of archaeology around this pond. Now, after working around the clock to process the results, they reckon they'll be able to impress Francis with what they've discovered.
It might not look very exciting, it might not look like a flint axe or something, but it tells us just as much about the past as any artefact can. The sediment from beneath your pond are full of very particular sort of pollen grain. It's this pollen grain, that's birch pollen. It shows us the sediments down there are about 13,000 years old. That's very old. It's the end of the last ice age.
But in terms of the archaeology on our site, probably the earliest thing we have is the Neolithic. This is your axe, which we found from there, presumably for cutting wood. We can tell you a little bit about that too.
Yeah, exactly. As we move into the Neolithic period, we start getting different sorts of pollen grains. We get this one, we get this one, and finally this one. This is all tree pollen. We've got hazel pollen down there, and oak pollen, and lime pollen. So we're basically seeing a very wooded landscape at the time, the Neolithic activity. In fact, the landscape we think will probably look something like this, very closed woodland in most areas.
But most of our evidence in the trenches dates to the medieval period, and they can tell us that the landscape by that time had become very different.
What you see in the pollen record is you start getting grains like this appearing. This is grass pollen, so you get an opening up of the landscape. The woodland's being cleared completely. And as we move on still further, we get these sorts of grains, that's cereal pollen appearing, so we're getting cultivation.
So in medieval times, the landscape here looked something like this.
Impressed?
Of course.
Are they good?
Yes, of course they are.
But are they the best?
Well, that we'll have to wait and see.
Right, John, you haven't peeked at this yet, have you?
No, but I'm dying to open it. Yes, absolutely. No, I haven't. No, I haven't.
There's so much for Francis to see today, she's going to be rushed off her feet. Right now, it's time to see the replica pottery.
There you are, Francis.
Thank you very much.
And just to compare that with the original, how does it feel to be holding in your hand the original object that started the whole interest in this area off for you?
I don't know, it's absolutely amazing. It really is, because for ages and ages we didn't know what this could possibly be. And we had loads and loads of ideas, and none of them very sensible. But that's definitely a sensible... I would be quite happy to eat out of that.
I wouldn't if I were you.
Up until now, we've been excavating through the big black lines on the geophys, but today we thought we'd try something new. We'd excavate between the lines to see if we could find any evidence of any houses, and this is the result. Huge trench with absolutely nothing in it. Not very helpful. The grand plan hasn't exactly set the world on fire, has it?
No, we've not really got a lot from that trench at all. We've extended the geophysics and we've got lots more targets, and we'd been talking about going for those, but...
Too late in the day to do any more about that. So I think what we need to do is actually go back to where we had most of the finds from, most of those Saxo-Norman pottery finds, which is Rakshar's Trench, and actually extend that and see if we can see more of the buildings and structures there.
So, that was Rakshar's original trench.
Yeah.
We're going to take it right up to this street frontage,
yeah,
and see if we've got a building that abuts to the road.
Basically, dig as big a hole as we can in the time that we've got left.
We've got available,
Yes,
yes.
that seems like a good plan.
Seems, yeah, plan B seems like the best strategy.
So we're extending Rakshas's trench and moving extra diggers in for one last push to find evidence of a building. But Carenza's heard some worrying news that the evidence might not be that easy to recognise.
I gather there's a possibility the buildings might have been made of mud, but I don't quite understand how that could work.
Well, this area has very little in the way of natural building materials. There's no timber, there's no stone, and mud or clay was the obvious material to use. I've got a piece of mud here from the last mud house in Skipsie, which was demolished in 1970. And it shows straw in it, pebbles, a great variety of things, including, I'm sure, cow dung and anything else scraped from the fields.
Do we know what they'd have looked like?
Well, I have a photograph of the last mud house in Skipsie, and it had brick wall and a pantile roof, but it was extended to that height in the 18th century. Before, it was just mud, and there's a little lump of mud here, which would have gone 6 foot high, and then there would have been a thatched roof.
So if the medieval houses on our site were built of mud, what evidence would we expect to find of them?
Probably very little, but the mud would have looked a bit of difference because of the pebbles in it and maybe the dung in it. It would have a different consistency from the ordinary natural mud around.
It sounds difficult to me, but at least we've got Phil helping in this trench now. And maybe we're close to a building here, because we are getting loads of finds.
Terry, I think I've found a brooch.
Oh, that's very nice. No, that is a buckle. This piece is the tongue that fits over this rod-shaped piece.
Wow, okay.
And the strap, you see, comes and fastens around here. And the other end loops underneath.
So it's a belt buckle?
Yes, that's it. It's a copper alloy belt buckle with little moulded ends. 12th, 13th century.
There are so many finds here that I can't believe we're not going to find a building. Carenza, meanwhile, is wondering what this settlement was called.
The established view when we arrived here was that Clayton, the place that's named in the Domesday record but has vanished now, has vanished because it was eroded by the sea. Well, we've now found a settlement of that date over there. Susan says the logical inference is that is the settlement of Clayton, but Stuart, you're not convinced?
Well, I came across this reference in a document of 1306 which says Nova Heide Burgi de Clayton, the new harbour for Clayton. Now, the implication to me there is that the harbour and Clayton are on the coastline.
Well, yes, I agree that's one interpretation, but I have another one, which is that the settlement itself was further inland and that Clayton really needed a landing place on the coast. The other reason for thinking this is Clayton is that all these lands in the southern part of Skipsie parish were called Clayton lands. Even as late as the 18th century, they were part of the copyhold of the manor of Clayton. And it seems logical, if we've got this settlement, obviously evidence of some settlement for the dig, inland, that this could be Clayton.
And in fact, it's on the sort of prime spot. It's the highest point in the parish.
That's right, it's the high ridge in the parish.
I'm just worried we're pinning the tail on the donkey, that we found the settlement, we've got a name, we're making the two together.
I think we've got the tail in the right place. I'm inclined to agree with Susan.
Well, Stuart may not be sure about the name of the settlement, but he's got plenty to tell Frances about the history of her field. This enclosure map of 1785 shows the shape of the original medieval fields.
Now, if you look at the evidence from the aerial photography, those are the fields of ridge and furrow. They were still surviving when this aerial photograph was taken in the 1940s. There's some more up here, for instance.
Victor's drawing shows the kind of settlement that Stuart believes was here just before the Norman Conquest. But he reckons the settlement was abandoned when this field was needed for ridge and furrow ploughing as Skipsie was expanding.
Then, later on, it happens again. In 1765, the Enclosure Bill, imposition of regular fields all across this landscape. The open fields that were part of the ridge and furrow system disappeared. So the field you've got now is like a capsule of all those events in history.
Time's almost up, and after collecting something like 250,000 readings, Geophys are ready to sit down and report to Frances.
Well, this is how the field was 2 years ago when we first came to do the survey for you, obviously if you ignore the trenches and the cars. And that's what we managed to achieve in the 3 days.
That is totally unbelievable.
I'm still amazed myself. I mean, we've gone into your neighbour's field now, and
it just continues in all directions. We've not actually been able to find a limit to the site.
Well, I thought there might have been a small village or a small settlement up there, but to actually see that...
Grayson's done some wonders with the graphics, converted the dots and the blobs and so on into the sort of ditches. OK, we haven't got the houses and so on, but that's sort of the first stage towards rebuilding that picture. Then it all disappeared and got covered with the ridge and furrow, the ploughing.
And finally, out in Francis's field, Phil's got some last-minute good news.
Well, Mick, I reckon we got our building.
Yeah?
I really do. I mean, what we got is this kind of, well, this big hollow area.
Yeah.
Which is running from Matt, and the edge is running right round here, so it looks like we got the end of it.
Right.
And then along here we got this definite row of stones. Inside we've also got stones. We've never had stones anywhere else in the site. And along this row of stones, you even got a sort of gravelly core to it as well, which smacks to me as though that may well be a wall line or something. Beyond it, we got what looks like a ditch.
Added to that, this ditch is crammed full of finds. What does our buildings historian think?
I think those line of stones is a clue, because often with a mud house you would want a firm base, a solid base that wouldn't rot, wouldn't get damp, and so cobblestones there would help. The gravelly piece is interesting because the type of mud wall we've got has pebbles in it, has mud holes, that sort of thing is maybe the remnants of some bit of mud walling.
It's difficult to reconstruct with so little solid evidence, but we do know something about medieval mud houses from the few that survived into modern times. Basically, we're talking about farmsteads that look something like this. Essentially, a building that, when pulled down, would leave little more than a few stones and a scatter of pottery to tell you it was ever there.
Are you confused by all the information you've got, or has it all become crystal clear?
I think it's almost become as clear as mud, but there's just so much, absolutely so much.
Whose evidence really impressed you?
I think Geophysics, because they have shown the extent of it. But then the evidence of the fact that we've got the bottom of our pond is 13,000 years old, the end of the last ice age, and we can actually tell what the scenery was like then. But it's just the whole thing is overwhelming.
But it's the importance of what this plot has revealed that tips the balance in favour of Geophys. Their survey is showing a range of periods of occupation, dating at least from the Iron Age through to a rarely found settlement of the Norman period. Untangling the many phases and ditches is a massive job, but this is Victor's attempt to show Francis what life was like here around the time of the Norman Conquest.
John, you won. Your evidence was the best.